Good morning, everyone. It's 7:15 and I'm just rolling out of the campground. It is a late start, but that's okay. Yesterday was really a long and hard day, so I figured today I'm gonna take it a little easier. It should also be easy walking as it's mostly forest roads, and as so often, the day is determined by food and water, water in particular. So, as we're out of the Gila Wilderness section now, we're back in that part of New Mexico where water is a very scarce resource. And the first water source is about 4 miles out. So I packed a liter for this morning and then we'll refill there. Then the next one is 16 miles out from Snow Lake. And that is what is going to be today's day, like the minimum. Make it to that water source so we can refill and cook and stuff. And I'll figure out, what time it is then and how I feel then, if I do a couple of more miles or not. Today is certainly more of a recovery day, as yesterday was a hard one. So a small recap on the Gila Wilderness. You can really divide it into 3 different parts. There's the walk in. That's the section coming from the south towards Doc Campbell's, which is I found it extremely beautiful, not only because it's the first time since you're walking near a river and near water, so you don't have to carry that much water, but also because the valley that you're walking in is very wide. So it's, I don't know, maybe 600 yards or something like that. And so the river just meanders through the floodplain, and there's a lot of plants and animals that you see out there. I found it very, very beautiful and was also easy walking if you kind of deduct those 60 river crossings, but they were not hard either. Now the second part is from Doc Campbell's to the end of Little Bear Canyon and kind of the middle section of the Gila Middle Fork. I found the cliff dwellings to be quite impressive, and also the trail back from the cliff dwellings to the pink route was very beautiful. It was a super narrow canyon prone to flash floods, very unlike anything I've ever seen. Huge walls on the left and right, very beautiful. And then when you hit back onto the pink section, the valley suddenly is it's just a lot narrower than it was down south of Doc Campbell's, and you have these gigantic towering rock walls on either side. So it might just have been me because I've never been in a canyon, but I found it super cool down there. And then going up further upriver, which is really the third part, it becomes a little wilder, if that is even possible. Not just the environment, but also the trail. That's where I think only CDT hikers go. I didn't see a single day hiker or weekend hiker or anything of that sort. And it's also really strenuous walking, as both trail is rough and tread is strenuous. But it was beautiful regardless. So overall, Gila alternate, huge thumbs up. Definitely advise anybody planning to do this to do that. It's a very welcome respite from the normal New Mexico walking, and we're going to see how that looks over the next 2 or 3 days. All right, water is packed. Pack is heavy, and now there's a long forest road walk ahead to the next water source. So while that's easy walking, it's also fairly boring, I guess. So it's a good stretch to listen to some music or listen to some books. Let the thoughts roam wild, because you don't really have to concentrate on where you're stepping all the time. One of the questions that I was asked a lot when I went out here was, why am I doing this? And it's a very long That's a very long answer, so I'm trying to give the short version. And it has a lot to do with my best friend Will, who very unfortunately passed away a few years ago at the young age of 39. So he was exactly the age that I am now, starting on this trip. He had cancer and was fighting it for a while with operations and therapy, but it did not work out at the end of the day. And it was really sad timing, because during the time he was going through this phase, I couldn't really go see him, as it was in the middle of Corona and there were travel restrictions. There would have been even worse restrictions visiting him in the hospital in sterile settings. And so long story short, I did never really get the chance to say goodbye to him. I mean, we spoke on the phone regularly while he was sick, but I never got to say goodbye. And so one of the things that we talked about was, when it was clear that there was nothing to be done anymore, we did talk about whether he had any regrets in life. And well, if you'd known him, it's no surprise to you that the answer to this question for Will is no. Will was one of a kind and just a fantastic human being, very reflected and driven and goal oriented. So he regularly thought about what he wanted out of life and pursued it almost ruthlessly. So in that way, he was quite the role model for me. I remember that conversation vividly, and I also remember that I wasn't, from my point of view, so convinced that I didn't have any regrets in my life. On the contrary, I thought if I were in Will's position, there were quite a few things that I would have regretted. And one of those things was doing this hike. We are only given so much time on this planet, and whenever it's my time to have such a conversation with someone, I also want to look back on my life and not regret having lived it, especially how I lived it. So I always wanted to do one of the big hikes in the US, and it's essentially been a dream of mine for more than a decade now, but life kind of got in the way. You know, you start your career, you start work, and there's always something that makes it hard to actually take half a year off and realize something like this. And so eventually I just had to say, it's just gonna happen this year, because if I'm not making it happen, it will not happen. So this trip is very much in the spirit of Will, in the sense that it's a pursuit of a long-standing dream, rather than just having that dream on the back burner for all of your life, while you just become older and older. And another thing is, since Will passed away, I've taken parts of his equipment and parts of his life with me on most of my big trips, just, you know, to be able to share these kind of things that we shared together in the past, through, I don't know, connections that I still have to him. And his family was kind enough to provide me with a small share of his ashes that I'm carrying with me. So in his testament, Will had asked for his ashes to be spread in a way that would align with the spirit of his life. And this trip definitely fits that bill. Will was an adventurer, and he would have endorsed this trip 100%. So I'm happy that I can take a part of him with me. And up in Colorado, in northern Colorado, There's a mountain called Williams Peak, and it is very near to the CDT. So I will make a little side tour up on that mountain, spread his ashes there. So that will be my way of saying goodbye to him, which was kind of made impossible to me by life earlier. The degree of solitude and nothingness out here is really astonishing. I mean, I've seen these landscapes in movies, but I never thought that they were real. So before I came here, I looked up a few things. One of the things that I looked up is apparently the population density in this part of the United States is about 400 times lower than in Central Europe. And without knowing this statistically, I really only understand how empty and void of human interference this landscape is when you walk through it. It's mind-boggling how empty and wide this landscape is. It's truly amazing. Today is really not much to say. I walked about 15 miles on probably the only forest road in the area, because that is where the trail is going through. Just trying to make it to the next water cache. And yeah, I mean, it's easy walking, but it's still a full day of walking. So it's not so much of a rest day as I expected it to be. But it's certainly less exhausting than yesterday. And I'll probably also get there before 6 o'clock, so I will have some time to relax at camp. Yes, having this road, or this forest road walk, it's really the price that you have to pay to connect the Gila Wilderness to the northern stretch towards Pytown. It's a price I'm willing to pay. So it turns out I'm just really bad at navigation. Or, well, actually, what I did was, in my head, I just kind of put the distance between Snow Lake and the water source that we intended to camp on. But I didn't really consider the fact that we had to do a walk in and walk out of Snow Lake again. And also do a walk that's 4 miles just to get there. And so by the time we hit that water source, I'd already done 23 miles. And then it turned out that water source is kind of in the middle of a huge flat area, very wind exposed with cattle around. It's really not a good place to camp at all. So now we've decided to walk another 3 miles. So that little rest day turned into a 26-mile day, which is a marathon. So that wasn't a rest day at all. Now we're gonna try again tomorrow to have a rest day and try to do below 20 because I really need it.